Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everyone's well tonight. This is episode 43 of Karls Spirits. Tonight we're going to be tasting Maker's 46. It's a product of Maker's Mark. It is not a bottled in bond. Sorry, folks. My supplies are starting to run a little thin, and I thought I had another bottled in bond lined up for tonight to make it 5 in a row, but I was mistaken. So, oh well. So we're going to be tasting Maker's 46. Of course, this is a product of Maker's Mark, as I said. It originally began as a seasonal offering in 2016. In 2012, and in 2016 turned into a full production line. Essentially, what makes Maker's 46 different than regular production Maker's Mark is that it is double aged. They take a regular mature Maker's Mark, dump it. They insert seared French oak staves into the middle of the barrel. They rebarrel the bourbon, and then they age it for another 3 to 5 months or so. The extra aging allows the bourbon to mature, to mellow a little bit more, and to have a deeper flavor profile. The seared French oak, they are heavily seared, by the way, just short of being charred, hangs in the middle of the new barrel, and that's what gives Maker's Mark its name. 46 is the profile number of the staves that correspond to the amount of charring and the temperature, drying, and development of the particular stave. So essentially 46 refers to that it's the 46th recipe that they use when they take into account all the variables. The other cool thing about Maker's 46 is that without Maker's 46, there would be no private select. There would be no barrel picks from Maker's. Essentially, Maker's has always invested very heavily in rotating their stock, moving barrels from one part of the rickhouse to another, so that all the stock comes out consistently at the end of about 6 years. They want to make sure that everything tastes about the same. Maker's was their only product Maker's Mark was their only product for a number of years. So if you're producing consistently the same tasting barrels, there's not much point in having a barrel pick program. But with the addition of the staves and the extra aging, multiple flavor profiles can be developed, and Maker's Private Select was then born. Today, you can go into several area liquor stores and find Private Select bottles on the shelf. I previously reviewed a Maker's Private Select. This one was from Mary Jane's Bourbon and Burgers, and that was in episode number 1. So if you can't remember that, go back and check that out. Episode 1, I reviewed Maker's Private Select from Mary Jane's. So how does the regular Maker's 46 compare out? Well, first of all, it uses their standard mash bill, 70% corn, 16% red winter wheat, and 14% malted barley. So this is a wheated bourbon. There is no rye. So we can expect a little less spice and a much softer mouthfeel. It is aged for about 6 years, 6 years and a half maybe, and it comes out at 94 proof. In the glass, this has an awesome copper color with some red highlights in there. So really pretty little redhead there in the glass. So get into the actual tasting. So first of all, you get that classic vanilla and caramel notes that are very, very sweet. There's also some wheat and corn in there too, some very grain-forward product, which is kind of surprising to me considering the age of about 6 years. If this was a 4-year bourbon, that probably wouldn't shock me too much. But being double-aged for 6 years, this is kind of a shock that I smell that much grain in the juice. It does have a great aroma, though. That grain does not put me off in the slightest. Taste. This is almost a dessert. I've been thinking about how to describe this for a little bit, and I'm going to go with this: vanilla bean ice cream with caramel syrup. There's really deep vanillas. There's some great caramel highlights. It just reminds me of a dessert, and the ice cream is the closest I could come to that. It has a soft, deep, thick mouthfeel. You can really chew on it a little bit. As it lingers in the mouth, it gets more flavorful. There's some cinnamon. Doesn't burn. It's very sweet. There's some corn notes. There's also some toffee in there too. The finish is long and excellent. It's sweet and has just a hint of spice on the back of the tongue. But there's also notes of leather and tobacco. It's a really earthy finish. It's very smooth, very enjoyable. And as it dissipates, as it fades, it gets dry. It becomes more of a drier finish. So that sweet note is there from the very beginning, and then as it finally comes off the tongue, it leaves a very dry taste. So it's actually really well balanced. It's really multi-dimensional here. I've always kind of felt Maker's 46 is what regular Maker's Mark strives to be. There's absolutely nothing wrong with regular Makers. It is a great go-to. I just found that the deeper notes of 46, for me, are more enjoyable. There's some spice notes, but that soft wheat does a really great job of tempering the spice, making it sweet, making it very full-flavored in the mouth. It's well-balanced, it's full-flavored, and you can really enjoy sipping on this for an evening. So, Karls stars. I'm going to go with 4.25 on this. There are always better pours on the market. However, this is one that I think a lot of people tend to overlook. They know regular Maker's Mark. It's very, very common. They see Maker's 46 as maybe just a gimmick to improve sales. But you're paying an extra $10 or so, $5 or so for the premium part of this. It's in the $40 range. This is a really great sipping bourbon. It's one that I regularly enjoy, as you can kind of tell from what's left in my bottle. So 4.25 stars. I just think it could have a little bit more of a heavier mouthfeel. You can chew on this one, but it's right on that line of being chewy. I think it could be a little bit more chewy, and I think that's what really holds me back. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's my take on Maker's 46. I hope everybody enjoys. Stay safe, peace, and happy pours.